It's More Money with leading economist Steve Moore. Now, here's your host, Steve Moore.
Folks, that is the More Money theme song, as it has been for the last 5 years. So thank you so much for joining. I hope it's beautiful out where you are, is where I am. It is one of those days you just want to put a bottle. It's beautiful blue sky, 75 degrees, balmy, not humid. So I hope you're all going to get out today and Sunday and have a great, great, great day. This is the middle of June, and I'm going to start the show by just saying, God bless America. What an amazing period this is for our great country. Obviously, the 250th birthday is coming up. I hope you are all going to celebrate. USA has won 2 straight matches in the World Cup in soccer. That I think the first time that's happened for the men. So that is very good news. We got a record stock market. I think this economy is ready to boom. Feeling very good about our country. By the way, even Cuba, there's news out this week that Cuba is talking about moving in a free market direction. How cool is that? Havana may be liberated. Cuba Libre is the saying now, and all the signs are that the Castro regime, after 60 years, may tumble, and they may move towards free market capitalism. Just think, by the way, how rich Cuba could be if they actually had a free enterprise system. So we're winning, folks. And one of the things I'm really concerned about is a poll that we had on the hotline earlier this week. I hope you're all getting the hotline. Go to unleashprosperity.com to get that showed that only less than 1/3 of Democrats say that they are very proud to be Americans. Only 1 out of 3. That's so sad. I'm very proud to be an American. Connor, I know you are.
Absolutely.
And so I know Matt is, who's our producer in New York. But how can you not be proud to be an American? I mean, this is the greatest country on earth. That doesn't mean we don't have faults. Certainly we do. But that's sad to me that young people tend to be less patriotic, and Democrats tend to be less patriotic. And part of this I blame on our schools. Well, we are going to take a quick break. I've got a great show lined up. I know this is the best hour of your week because it's the best hour of my week when we have the More Money show. And I'm going to when we come back from just a very short break, we're going to bring on one of my heroes, Phil Gramm, the great former senator from Texas, who has an amazing piece in the Wall Street Journal today on the Reagan era and how the Reagan tax cuts saved the economy. It's a fantastic read, and we will be right back with the great former senator from Texas, Phil Gramm.
It's More Money with leading economist Steve Moore. Now, here's your host, Steve Moore.
We're back, folks. This is the More Money Show. I'm economist Steve Moore, and I've always said I'm not the world's greatest radio talk show host, but I do get some of the world's greatest guests on my show, and that certainly applies to my next guest, who is a hero of mine, and I know a lot of you listening to the show across the country. I'm talking about the great Senator Phil Gramm, the former senator from Texas, who played such an incredible role in the Reagan Revolution in the 80s, 40 years ago, in terms of really turning around the economy from the terrible 1970s. Just to give you one statistic, when Reagan became president, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was 1,000. Thanks to the work of course, the Gipper, but also great economists and senators like Phil Gramm, the Dow is now at 52,000. So what an incredible period of wealth creation. Senator Phil Gramm, thanks for joining.
Well, thank you, Steve. Policy does have an effect.
It sure does, doesn't it?
No question about that.
So that's exactly why I wanted to have you on. By the way, Phil Gramm has a wonderful piece. His book, latest book, is called The Triumph of Economic Freedom. But I wanted to get him on today because he has an incredible piece that everyone should read in the Wall Street Journal today on the Reagan tax cuts and how they really transformed the American economy. I read every word of it and I agreed with every word of it. And I will simply say that tax cut may not have happened had it not been for the heroic work of Phil Gramm. By the way, at that time, Senator, you were a Democrat.
That's right. And in fact, if you'll recall, we Republicans did not have a majority in the House. And so we were able to put together a coalition of almost all the Republicans and roughly 30 Democrats.
30 Democrats in the House, right?
Yeah. You got to remember, in those days, there was still a fair number of very conservative Democrats most of them from the South.
Right. And so you put that together, you passed the Reagan tax cut. You were sort of the lead Democrat on that for sure. And then you also passed the Reagan budget with those spending cuts, and then they kicked you out of the party, right?
Well, I had offered in 1980 with David Stockman a budget we call the bipartisan recovery budget.
Right.
And it had gotten enough Democrat votes that when the 1980 election votes were counted, that with the Democrats that had voted for our budget in 1980 in the House and the new Republicans, we had a majority. And so our task was to try to put together a budget and a tax cut that could assemble that majority. And we were able to do it. With a very, very narrow margin, but we made it.
So the real key, in my opinion, I learned this again from reading your great piece in the Wall Street Journal today, is that when Reagan came into office, the highest income tax rate was 70%, which is, unfathomable that we would have a policy that would be that destructive to the economy. And through the first tax cut that happened in 1981 that you helped pass, and then the second tax cut that happened in 1986 that you also played a big role on with people like Bill Bradley. And that second tax cut really was bipartisan. We cut the highest tax rate in the United States from 70 to 28%, and we increased revenue, as you show in your article, but also the corporate tax rate went from, I think, 50% down to, I think, 35%. And it was the Laffer curve. We got more revenue with lower rates. How'd that happen?
Well, and also, in addition to the fact that when you let people keep more of what they earn, they work and they save and they invest and they innovate more. In addition to that, in the 1970s, you had an explosion of social welfare spending.
Yes.
With the inflation rate, which reached 13.3% in 1980, you had Americans that were being pushed into higher and higher tax brackets. And we had 24 different tax brackets, so that the tax burden during the 1970s grew twice as fast each year on average as it had grown in the years since the end of the Second World War. And by 1980, the federal government was taking more of the income of the economy than in any year in American history to that point, except 2 years during the Second World War.
Right. Amazing.
And so what basically the situation, as I was explaining to Democrats at the time, is that the tax burden now is so great that the Congressional Budget Office, which is people totally by Democrat appointees, is saying that if we don't reduce taxes in 1981, that we're going to see growth choked off. And in fact, that tax burden pushed us into a recession before Reagan took office, and then it double dipped in 1981. So the tax cut was critical because of the tax burden on the economy literally made full employment impossible. And we were able to convince Democrats who were skeptical of supply-side economics that the alternative to cutting taxes was to preclude the ability to put Americans back to work.
I think that's exactly right. And then we had the 1986 bill, which was, by the way, that was, I mentioned this last week on the show, and you know these numbers, Senator, but that passed 97-3 in the United States Senate. Now, you were one of the 97 who, of course, voted for that bill, but you even had people like Al Gore, you had people like Joe Biden, you had people like Howard Metzenbaum, you had people like Ted Kennedy who voted for that bill because they realized a broader tax base with lower tax, a broader tax base with lower tax rates would improve the economy. But today in the Senate, I don't think you get one single Democrat to vote for something like that. What do you think happened to the Democratic Party?
Well, I think we had an extraordinary set of leaders in 1986 who really understood the tax code and understood that we were basically using the tax code for industrial policy.
Right.
Many of the tax incentives it created were political payoffs, any kind of economically valuable incentives. And we were able to get a dynamic going where if one side, the Republicans under Bob Packwood, were willing to give up their, quote, tax breaks, the other side would. And the net result was clearly the most efficient tax code that America had ever had or has had since. And a tax code that basically, even though it dramatically reduced rates, did not reduce tax collections because we had stripped out all the underbrush of giveaways in the tax code.
Yes.
Now many of those have come back, as you know, Steve. And one of the points I make in this paper is currently, when you look at the personal income tax, the top 20%, top 60% of taxpayers pay 105% of the personal income taxes paid in America.
Now, how can they pay 105%?
How can that be? Because the bottom 5% gets 5%.
They have money back. Right.
And money back that they never paid in. Tax credits. So the IRS is now one of the largest welfare agencies in the federal government. That's how much the system has degenerated since 1986.
Yeah. By the way, every time, you know this, you mentioned it in your piece, but just about every time in American history that we've cut tax rates, including in the 1920s and including in the 1960s, including in the 1980s, and even under Trump tax bill, the revenues have increased. It's happened every time.
Well, and high-income people pay a larger share of the tax.
That's right.
Our tax code, this argument that, as I talk about in the paper, that the Reagan tax cut was a tax cut for the rich. If you look at the relative tax burdens before the cut and after the cut, high-income people paid a larger share. Low-income people paid less.
So, Senator, we only have 3 minutes left, and I appreciate so much on a Saturday afternoon you taking some time. I got two last questions for you. First of all, I have to ask you about AI. This is, as I see it, going to be one of the most incredible productivity-enhancing revolutions with robotics coming and so on. I'm on the board of a company. We build houses with robots. We're going to cut the cost of and yet people are afraid of it. And tell me why it is that. I mean, that's like being against the farm tractor, which moved people off the farm. So is AI a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, we never adopted a major technology in the history of mankind that didn't make us better off.
Right.
And the most dramatic change, the Industrial Revolution, made us much better off. I am fearful that government is going to get in the way, and what we need to do is let the market work and then decide on how the legal structure of the country needs to respond to it. But we shouldn't fear AI. We should be excited about it. And to this point, despite all the talk about lost jobs, go look at the unemployment statistics. The jobs in the aggregate are not being lost.
Yeah.
And jobs are going to be created that we never even thought about. And this idea, well, AI can produce all we'll ever want, and so then nobody will do anything. One thing I have confidence in the Homo sapien for is our wants are always greater than our income.
Okay, final question in our last 25 seconds. Is Elon Musk a villain or a hero?
Well, he's a hero.
Yeah.
At least in my house, for a fairly low fee, I have his satellite, and it connects me to the world. Now, he's the richest man in the world partly because of it. Am I poor because of it? No, I'm richer.
Adobe Firefly is the all-in-one creative studio with AI-powered image and video editing for today's creative process. Built for creators of every kind, Firefly helps you generate, edit, and experiment fast. Because the asks aren't getting smaller, the budgets aren't getting bigger, and the timelines, oh yeah, still tight. With all the best creative AI models in one place, Firefly brings your ideas to life. Unlock a better way to make with Adobe Firefly.
It's More Money with leading economist Steve Moore. Now, here's your host, Steve Moore.
Welcome back, folks. This is the More Money Show. By the way, I hope you're all getting the More Money hotline every morning, 5 mornings a week, that is. That is a publication that I put out with my buddy John Fund, who will be coming on the show in about 10, 15 minutes. But it's free. It costs nothing. It is a great little digest every morning of the most important things that are going on with the economy, with politics, with finances. And you can read it 5 minutes every morning. And it's free. It costs nothing. Some of the best things in life are free, and the hotline is one of them. So please go to unleashprosperity.com and sign up. And by the way, if you don't like it, you can just unsubscribe, but I think you will like it. Congressmen are reading it, senators are reading it, people in the White House are reading it, CEOs are reading it, and you should be reading it too. In the meantime, by the way, I forgot to shout out to all the fathers out there. A happy Father's Day. Father's Day is tomorrow. And my next guest, Jay Jackson, is a regular on this show. He is back by popular demand because what he has to tell us about financial markets and how to live longer is invaluable information. So Jay Jackson runs Abacus. And so, Jay, thanks for joining.
Yeah, hey, Steve, how you doing? Happy Father's Day.
Good. Hey, you too. Are you a father?
Oh, yeah. I have 7 kids. So, they all don't remember me as much. But yeah, man, listen, I love being a dad. Some people just say I'm codependent. So, maybe. But I love it. I love it. It's a great day tomorrow.
Well, you're being fruitful and multiplying, and that's what the Bible tells us to do. And unfortunately, let's start with that. I mean, I'm concerned, Jay, and you run a financial firm that gives advice to people about when they retire, how they can make as much money in their investments as possible. But young people are not having babies as they were. I mean, the birth rate is now less than 1.6. I think it's around 1.6 per married couple. That's too low. What do you think's going on there?
Well, I mean, a couple things, right? You have many times husband and wife in the workforce for a longer period of time, and that's slowing down what their ultimate having children rate might be. I think what's super interesting is that we're thinking about the impact of Social Security, right? Where we talk about Social Security is going to run out in 2032. What's fascinating, though, is that we haven't had enough workers in the workforce, right, to support Social Security for 15 years. Right. So this isn't something that's going to just happen in 2032. And look, Social Security Trust Fund, it's still going to be there. It's going to be less in 2032. And we're starting to kind of have to overdraw it. And what's fascinating to me is this comes back to the core thing that I tell everyone. We rolled out our new LifeArc program, made a major announcement last week, shareholder to invest, a huge investor shareholder letter. And what it is we use data to help people better understand when they get to age 65, how long they're going to be in retirement. And here's what's super fascinating. My point is you could worry less about Social Security if you're taking care of yourself. 2/3 of Warren Buffett's actual money was made post the age of 65. So A, it's never too late. B, the last double matters. But I'll add to that and say this. What we're finding is that people can actually double the income that they had expected if they get and understand their lifespan, right? Here's the two scenarios, Steve. You got somebody who's really healthy. They can live 30 years potentially in retirement, 65 to 95. Unlikely, but it can happen. If you plan for that, that's probably going to be your scenario. And at 65, Steve, they should be allocating to equity. They should be taking more risk. People just want to go into income and pick up that last double.
Well, Jay, everybody tells you,
up your income.
I just turned 60, I'm 66 now, so I'm right in that age range. And everybody's, now you got to get out of equities and get into the bonds. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I don't get a return on bonds. I mean, and I don't know if I'm going to learn to live 5 years, 10 years, 20, 25 years. I mean, by the way, Abacus can help me help make a good prediction on that, right? So that's part of your investment.
That's what formula. We're finding. We're finding we can help people double their income in retirement just by knowing a basic fact, how long you're going to be in there. It's not how much your money grows, it's how long it's going to last.
Well, how do you do
that? The same thing, though.
So how we you take somebody like me, I just turned 66. I'm in reasonably good health. I mean, I'm declining a little bit. I don't have the energy that I used to. So you'll be able to make a prediction based on my health records, or how do you do that?
That's right. So we go and retrieve all your medical files for you. We give those back to you, and then we aggregate all this data. This is an AI-driven platform. So for those folks that are looking for how does AI impact you in a very positive way, this is it. We can screen medical files in seconds that used to take hours. We now screen, we run those, we underwrite those, and then we produce an actual lifespan, meaning this is the people just like you who have had a mortality experience over the last 20 years. We take lifespan, which is
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you can do this better than the insurance companies can. You can do it better than the government can, obviously. So the old rule of data. Yeah, you have the data. So that's what makes Abacus kind of special. By the way, how do people find out about Abacus?
It's really easy. Go to abacusgm.com. We're a publicly traded company. We trade on the New York Stock Exchange, ticker symbols ABX. They can learn everything they want to know about what we're doing, including our new LifeArc program, which we're finding literally has a huge impact, can double their retirement income just by knowing how long they're going to be in retirement.
So in other words, just to simplify this for people, let's say you look at someone like me and you look at my health, and I'm just making up, let's say you say, well, your health isn't so good. We predict you'll live another 12 years, let's say. And then somebody else comes in, they're lifting weights, they're running marathons, all that stuff. You might say, you're going to live 25, 30 more years. So there's a different investment portfolio between these two people.
But you know what's interesting? They both should double their income. That's what's amazing to me. For the person who has a 12-year lifespan, their income should be way higher because it's over a shorter period of time. For the person with a 25-year lifespan, they should be thinking about a much higher income because they're going to be able to take more risk over a longer period of time. It's the last double, right? And that's what people miss. And I think when we're out talking about Social Security running out of money, pension funds aren't enough, how do we support ourselves? Well, we have to get the data. And that data is, let's start with how long you're going to be in retirement and then build that income around it. And there's $120 trillion going to happen in a wealth transfer. When those people inherit that wealth, they need to know that information. It's the same conversation, though, going back to the 20 and 30-year-olds, Steve. I'm having it with them, and I'm saying, listen, you want to be worth $10 million or $100 million? Right. Because that's the difference in doubles. You have the most valuable asset in the world. It's called time. You and I know this math, right? We need to teach it to them. We need to put this in college courses so that they understand the most valuable asset they have in the world is time. Now, somebody who's 65, the most valuable asset they need to know is time.
Yeah.
Because if they do it right, they don't have to stress about Social Security.
So I'm talking to Jay Jackson, who is the CEO of Abacus, and you should look this up because it's really a unique financial product. Now, Jay, I was always told that, the rule of thumb was that you should put your percentage of your assets into bonds based on your age. So in other words, I'm 66. So the rule of thumb was, 66% of my money should be in bonds. If you're 33, 33% of your bonds. Does that formula work?
No, it's broken, because that's assuming you're just like everyone else. I have two neighbors, right?
Right.
One has a chronic condition and one is going to be very healthy. How on earth do they walk out? They're both 65. How on earth should they both be allocated to 65% bonds? That's absolute wrong. It's a disaster. And it's the conversation that has to be had with people, that customized financial solutions is how we're going to be able to use this data going forward. Abacus has actually harnessed that data. We capitalize on AI to give you better outcomes when you're in retirement. And that's what this is about.
And finally, I always ask this question, and people are so interested in our last 30 seconds. I want to live to 100. What do I do?
Two things. First of all, stop trying to live to 100, right? Do the things today, right? Do the things today that really matter, right? If you're thinking about, I'm going to live to 100, what you have to be able to do is train to live to 100. Nobody gets there easily, right? So what I'm saying is start training today. If you're 65, you should be lifting weights. You should be, the biggest impact you can have to living, to extending your lifespan is exercise, community, and communication. Those three things will have a massive impact. But even if you don't live to 100, Steve, you know what's really amazing? What if I can give you back a decade of your life? How much would you pay for that? If you right now, I could say, hey, what's 1 year of your life worth to you? If I write $1 million checks or 10 million, whatever, anybody would write that number. And I'm like, why don't you invest in yourself the same way? Because that's how you get a year back.
Amazing. Jay, always have loving you on the show. It is Abacus, folks. You got to check that out because it will not only help you live longer, but it'll also help you make more money as you live longer. That's Jay Jackson of Abacus. This is the More Money Show, and we'll be right back with John Fund, formerly of the Wall Street Journal.
33 days, 33 episodes. Join me, Max Rushton, and our expert team of soccer journalists every day of the World Cup for analysis, drama, and everything in between. World Cup Daily. Listen on Spotify now or watch full episodes on YouTube.
It's More Money with leading economist Steve Moore. It's More Money with leading economist Steve Moore. Now, here's your host, Steve Moore.
We are back, folks. This is the More Money Show. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. Boy, we are live and we're in color. It is absolutely a beautiful day where I am in the beautiful city of Washington, D.C. Happy Father's Day to the fathers out there. My next guest is John Fund. As promised, John Fund, you know him from his several decades working at the Wall Street Journal editorial board. He also is the author of many books on election fraud, stealing elections, which happens way too often in this country. He also works with me at Unleash Prosperity. It's one reason you got to get the hotline, because John does our political items for the hotline. So, John, first of all, thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Okay, so much to talk about, John. Let us start with a very disturbing development, which is, it looks to me, I think all the votes are counted, that basically another Democratic socialist and another Zoran Mandami has been elected, in this case in Washington, D.C. This, to my count, is like 5 now major cities, including New York, including Seattle, including Los Angeles, that have far left-wing Democrats who do not believe in free market capitalism running the cities.
I think two things have happened at the same time, which should make us worry. The first is Ronald Reagan was right in his farewell address when he said, if we don't properly teach our history, the values of the country, and the founding fathers to school children, they're going to forget that. He said, liberty cannot be transmitted through the bloodstream. It has to be educated generation to generation, and we have failed that. And I blame the teachers union, and thank goodness the school choice movement is gaining as much momentum as it did. The second problem we have is this. Because a lot of these cities have been so badly governed for so long, they have rent, which is much higher than it should be. A lot of these cities have rent control, which, of course, doesn't work. They have incredibly expensive governments because of feather bedding union contracts and all kinds of restrictions on business and regulation. So these cities are very expensive to live in. The reaction, unfortunately, by young people, especially young people who've moved into these cities, is things cost too much. Let's soak the rich. Let's dismantle the free market and bring in socialism. This is precisely the wrong approach because it's the socialism that led to all of the problems we're complaining about.
Yeah. It's like putting gasoline on a fire.
Yes, exactly.
So how concerned should we be about this? I'm one who loves America's great cities. As you know, John, I'm from Chicago. You've lived in New York much of your life, and you're also from California, I think the San Francisco area. So I hate to see this happen to our big cities, but it looks like it's almost a virus.
It is, although there are some vaccines. Some cities have turned around. San Francisco, my hometown, has a new mayor, and he is making things better.
Yes, he's a good mayor.
He is. Minneapolis is holding the line. The local mayor there did defeat a Democratic Socialist friend of Ilhan Omar in the last election. Minneapolis is stabilized, not necessarily getting better. But if you're talking Seattle, Portland, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., New York,
terrible.
They're in trouble.
Well, John, I mean, my gosh, as you know, I'm from Chicago. The Bears are leaving Chicago. That's how bad it's getting there. They literally are going to Indiana.
The Bears are scared of something amazing. They're scared of their own city.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, really pathetic. And I hate this because I think that, you and I lived through when Rudy Giuliani, we were both living in New York when he became mayor. Now, Rudy had his faults, but my God, he really improved that city day after day, week after week with common sense reforms.
So we have to do two things. The first thing is we have to hold the line and make sure that other cities don't fall into this trap. By the way, Los Angeles is about to elect a socialist mayor, it looks like.
Yeah.
We have to hold the line so they don't get any further. And secondly, we have to understand that they will fail, and in their failure, we have to have alternatives. We have not spent enough time on urban policy. We have not spent enough time on responses to the badly governed cities. We have to focus on that. We have to have real solutions to crime, real solutions to homelessness, real solutions to healthcare problems and high cost of housing. And we have to turn the cities that are in red states, turn them into examples that other cities can follow.
Yeah, that's for sure. So a couple of other questions I had for you, John. One is something else you've been following, which is very problematic, and it overlaps with what we were just talking about how socialistic the big cities have become. Many of our blue states and some of our blue cities are now talking about big wealth taxes, which would be terrible. You're from California. They're looking at a 5% wealth tax, although what's the latest that you're hearing on that?
Well, California law allows the legislature to negotiate with whoever sponsors these initiatives, and if they can come up with a compromise, then it doesn't go on the ballot and saves everybody a bunch of money because they don't have to spend it on television ads. The danger is that the Democrats are negotiating with people further to the left than they are, the Democratic Socialists. So the worry is if by June 25th there could be a compromise in which the wealth tax goes off the ballot, but they impose other taxes that are broader based, and they raise spending as a bribe to try to buy off the people in support of the wealth tax. That would be the worst of both worlds, because I have to tell you, wealth tax stays on the ballot, we're going to beat it. And I think that would be a highly symbolic victory that would show that the American people do have some common sense, and they recognize all these billionaires are leaving these states. They're leaving Washington State, which raised its taxes. They're leaving California. The head of Google, the head of of In-N-Out Burger. Everyone is leaving California, and I think that we want to actually want this battle on the ballot in November.
We just have less than 60 seconds left, John Fund. Last question that I have for you is with respect to something that you put in the hotline, a poll result showing less than 1 out of 3 Democrats say they're very proud to call themselves Americans. I find that very troubling. What do you think's going on there?
Well, I think that the fact that our children for the last 30 years have been indoctrinated into blame America first, woke ideology, guilt for the country's history shouldn't surprise us. And most of that collapse in support for America has been in blue states where the teacher unions have been the most woke and where the indoctrination has been the most severe. This is why we need school choice, and this is why we have to break the back of the teacher unions. And
yet, as we speak, John, in states like Florida, and states like Arizona, and states like Pennsylvania, there's pushback to actually reverse the gains we've made on school choice, even when we have evidence that the programs are working.
Well, evidence is irrelevant to our opponents.
Right, exactly.
The bottom line is, first of all, we know the reforms are real because they're fighting them so fiercely, so that's good news. Secondly, I think we're going to win those. I think we're going to beat them back in Arizona. We're going to beat them back in Florida. The courts have basically been very sensible on this and ruled in favor of school choice in almost every case.
And you know why I think I agree with you, John? I think we're going to win against the teachers' unions because what we're finding is the people who have benefited the most from the school choice have been Hispanic and Black parents in families.
And Asian parents. Yeah, absolutely.
And Asians. So amazing. Well, John Fund, you are, what is your prediction finally in our last 30 seconds on what will happen in California with this wealth tax? Because it's already the second highest tax state in the country.
Well, there's a second initiative on the ballot to extend the higher tax rates that were put in place a decade ago, which took the California top rate to 13.3%. I think there may be a compromise on that in which the legislature basically says, okay, we'll extend those taxes, and in exchange, if you pull the wealth tax off the ballot. I don't want to compromise. I want to beat the wealth tax in November.
Me too. John Fund, thanks so much. That's John Fund. He works with me at Unleash Prosperity. You know him from the Wall Street Journal and Fox News. Folks, in my last minute, I just wanted to, first of all, say Happy Father's Day to the fathers in this country who make our families possible. And I also want to say, love America. This is the greatest country on earth. I'm so disappointed to hear some of my Democratic friends say, hey, you cannot, you cannot love our country. You may not like Donald Trump. You may not like, our politics, but this is the greatest country on earth, and we are blessed to be in it. I will be there on the 4th of July, celebrating our 250th birthday. I know you will too. And put a flag in front of your house. That's when you're a patriot. Folks, have a great weekend. We'll be back. Same bat time, same bat channel on the More Money Show. Have a great weekend.